We're back! Happy Tuesday, Potterheads! I am so happy to be back! It is Season 3. We are reading Prisoner of Azkaban, but first, let's get into the... Wait! No. I'm not doing that anymore. No more recaps. Yes, I'm very sorry, you guys, but I'm not gonna do my on-camera recaps anymore. It takes a lot of time for so little payoff. And what I was doing before with the moving titles, like, that was literally the least amount of effort I could put in to make it look good, and it was still taking just as long to edit just that, 45 seconds as it was to edit the entire rest of the video. So starting today, and from here on, unless I change my mind, I will not be doing a on-camera recap anymore, but there will be a written recap in the description below. But I would love it if you guys would send me recaps of your own. So if you want to record yourself doing a recap for a future chapter, that's great. Just a few stipulations. It absolutely has to be less than 45 seconds. It has to be the maximum amount of creativity that you can give me, and it has to be just a factual description of what happens on the page. So no opinion, no commentary. Oh, and it also has to be sent to me by the Friday before that chapter would air at the very latest. Also, I retain the right to edit whatever you send to me. But yes, pick a chapter that we'll be doing in the future, get creative, record a recap, and send it to me, and maybe it'll end up in that chapter's episode. And before we get started today, I just want to say thank you guys so much for being patient with me while I took a break in between book club seasons. I really needed the time off, but I am so happy to be back. It feels so good to be in front of the camera talking about this stuff again. It's been 2.5 weeks since I've been in front of the camera. I really needed that break just to catch up on other stuff and rest. But I appreciate you being patient until we came back, and I'm so happy that we are! Anyway, today we will be talking about Chapter 1 of Prisoner of Azkaban, and we will be tackling Professor Binns' summer essay prompt, which burning in the 14th century was completely pointless. Discuss. But before we jump into it, go ahead and read that recap in the description below if you would like. And if you are new here, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Please don't forget that you can subscribe by hitting that red button below and ring the notification bell right next to it so you always know when I upload. And if you want to catch up with 2 seasons of the book club now, you can start all the way back at Chapter 1 of Sorcerer's Stone at that card right there in the top left. Okay, we are kicking off Season 3 in very typical book club fashion, taking a tiny obscure part of the chapter and blowing it up into a full-length discussion. Oh man, watch time on this video is really going to suffer. Witch burning in the 14th century was completely pointless. Or at least that's Professor Binns' opinion. But let's dig deeper into this actually. Okay, now half of the people that clicked on this video are gone, so now we can actually talk about it and have some fun. Here's the information we have from canon, and mind you, it's extremely limited. In the 1300s, witches were being persecuted by muggles everywhere, and were being burned at the stake. However, Bathilda Bagshot, the most famous magical historian ever, points out that this burning had no effect whatsoever. As she points out, the witch or wizard would perform a basic flame freezing charm, and would enjoy a gentle tickling sensation while the flames would burn around them. Indeed, Wendelin the Weird enjoyed it so much that she actually allowed herself to be caught more than 47 times. And that got her a chocolate frog card. Can you believe that? What else do we know? Well, we know Florian Fortescue knows a lot about it, and we know that France's history changed Hermione's mind about it for some reason. And, well, that's about it. Alright, great video today, guys. Really great work.
When was the International Statute of Secrecy instituted?
1692? Almost 400 years later? You guys, the International Statute of Secrecy wasn't instituted until 1692, and in his prompt, Professor Binns specifically asks about 14th century. So if wizard and muggle relations weren't bad enough to enact a law for another 300 to 400 years, maybe witch burning really was pointless. But hold on, I need to do more research. 1300s? Maleficium? Damage to rivals? Okay guys, check this out. I have learned from my research that organized witch hunts were the most common from the 15th to the 17th centuries. Now, Professor Binns asks about the 14th century, so there's not a huge stretch there. But when we're looking at the time during which organized and big witch hunts were the most popular, it's not until we get into the 1500s and the 1600s. 200 years before Professor Binns' prompt is even asking about. And listen to this, until the year 1420, witchcraft-related persecutions were almost exclusively centered around something called maleficium, which is the concept of using supernatural powers specifically to harm someone. So in the 1300s, the specific century that Binns is asking about, witch hunts would have been largely centered around somewhere in which actual harm was done, or at least alleged harm. Additionally, most cases came about from accusations in which the use of ritual magic was used to harm someone who was their rival. And the more random, less reactionary, more religiously motivated witch hunts didn't really start until like the 1500s, and it didn't really take off in a big way until the 1600s in America. So okay, the witch burning we're looking at for this essay was largely motivated by accusations of harm. And we have Wendell the Weird who allowed herself to be caught more than 47 times. But how do we reconcile these two things? Because it doesn't sound to me like muggles would have been hunting magical people just out of malice. In all likelihood, it sounds like these witches or wizards could have actually done something to deserve some kind of punishment. Obviously not execution per se, but it does sound like they weren't behaving in the most appropriate way. Bathilda Bagshot is quick to point out that the muggles during this time were particularly fearful of magic, but we kind of know that that's just blatantly untrue. In England and all across Europe at the time, there were people who worked specifically as what the British called cunning folk. If we talk about this in the context of Harry Potter and even in the real world, these are people who would have been using their magical powers to help muggles, most often with medicine or fixing other similar problems. And these cunning folk were common up until the 17th century, and they were all over Europe. In France, they called them devants, which means soothsayer. In Italy, benandanti. In Sweden, klockgluma, which means old wise woman. And my personal favorite, in Germany, Hexenmeister. Guys, the word wizard even literally means wise person. The suffix erd, A-R-D, just means person. So, like, a dullard is a dull person. A drunkard is a drunk person. A wizard is just a wise person, a cunning folk. And like I said, they were common all over Europe up until, oh my God, she has done it again! They were common until the 17th century. The International Statute of Secrecy was signed in the 17th century. I love J.K. Rowling. Anyway, guys, I think what I'm discovering here is that historical accounts of witch burning written by wizards or witches kind of appear to be super biased against muggles. Bathilda Bagshot appears to have warped the truth of history to make it seem that muggles are unilaterally afraid of magic, which is just blatantly untrue. So from that point of view, yeah, you could probably look back and say witch burning was completely pointless. From the point of view of a 14th century muggle, a muggle who accepted the fact that they lived around and with magical people and accepted burning as a proper punishment, and in a society that didn't really burn witches without any accusation of harm, well, seems to me like pointless might be a bit of a stretch. That being said, I don't agree with the death penalty, and I think that humans focus too often on punishment instead of rehabilitation, but that's another discussion entirely. And that's all for today's topic. You guys let me know in the comments what you think about Professor Binns' summer essay prompt. And specific question for you guys, why do you think he mentioned specifically witch burning and not also wizard burning? Because in his world, those are very specific terms to very specific people. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Okay, there's one more thing that I wanted to discuss in this chapter that is kind of a letter of disappointment, but I don't really know all the intricacies of it, so it didn't really warrant sitting in the chair. But you guys, I'm troubled by Errol in this chapter. Errol is the Weasley family owl, and in this chapter, he is struggling so hard that he has to be carried by Hedwig and a Hogwarts owl just to be able to make it to Harry. Now, it seems to me like if Errol hadn't crossed paths with these two other owls, he might not have made it all the way to Harry. And I worry that that poor bird might have died. So I want to get your thoughts on all of this, of course, but is the Weasleys' continued use of this poor bird kind of unethical treatment? He clearly is unable to perform his job well enough. The trip exhausted him so much that he almost didn't make it. And it's not like the Weasleys are unaware of his situation. They know he is super old and is really not as good at this as most other owls. So like, shouldn't they probably get a new owl? I know it's probably not cheap, so like maybe they should just send their mail another way? I'm sure there has to be some other mail delivery service than owls. I mean, they're wizards. You're really gonna tell me that there isn't some spell that they could get their package package to their destination, or at least somewhere close, or that there isn't a central post office that you can magic your packages to and then they send it out. And Errol's treatment by the Weasleys kind of makes me wonder about the ethicality of Owl Post at all. On the one hand, it seems like owls kind of have a choice about whether or not they want to do this, and they clearly expect payment for their services. On the other hand, there are families and individuals like the Weasleys and Harry that treat their owls also as pets. But on that note, they don't really provide food for them or anything like that. I mean, unless Harry is forced to keep Hedwig locked up, but when she's not locked up, she goes out and hunts for her own food. And yeah, she probably prefers that, but it just seems like owls kind of fit this weird mold of not exactly a pet and not exactly a professional. So, I don't know, guys. I didn't really do any research for this part. I just am really interested to hear your thoughts on it. And alrighty, this week's fun question. First one of the season. Which country would you want to travel to specifically for the purpose of studying their unique magical history? Let me know what country in the comments below. And that is it for this week's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to follow along, please subscribe and make sure that you ring the notification bell as well so that you know when I upload, because YouTube is not good about telling you. And if you really love being a part of this community and you want to help me grow it, please consider supporting me through one of the methods in the description below via my Patreon or my merchandise. If you need to catch up on season 1, you can click here, or if you need to catch up on season 2, you can click right there. And as always, if you can't get enough of my nonsense, you can click my face to visit my second channel. Your assignment for next week is to read chapter 2, that is Aunt Marge's Big Mistake. So make sure you guys read that by next Tuesday, and until then, happy reading! Ugh, it's so good to be back. Knox!